Hey guys, welcome back. It is your favorite Gimp of the Limp, and I'm here with a special treat for you today. Today we are taking a look at Assault Red Horizon 41 by Assault Games, a game by Wolfgang Klein. God, I love that name, Wolfgang. If I had another kid, I swear I'd name him Wolfgang. I don't know, something cool about the name, man. Gotta love it. This was actually sent to me by my buddy Mo, and unfortunately, and I do mean this, unfortunately, I have to send this back to him. I really don't want to. I gotta admit, I really don't want to, but I'm definitely going to send it back to him. But he sent it my way so I could do a quick playthrough and review for you guys, get it up real quick, and then send it back his way so he could get it on the table as well. But I think I'm going to have to get myself a copy because good freaking grief. I love the look of this game. The box is just freaking awesome. I mean, look at this cover, man. Just look at the cover. I was tickled. At first, I thought it was going to be a prototype. And then I was like, these are excellent components. What the hell are they making it out of? Gold, with the real ones? And turns out this is the actual finalized version of it. I was so excited. So we're going to take a look at this. This is a game similar to Lock and Load Tactical, Conflict of Heroes. It's that tactical hex encounter, skirmish-based gameplay. All right, that's the general gist of it. But there's a lot going on here, some new concepts, and I love it when people try some new stuff. And these guys came out swinging with some new stuff. I am just like a kid in a candy store with this thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the games that I just mentioned. Like Conflict of Heroes is definitely one of my favorites. I love that game for the longest time, especially the 3rd edition. If you haven't seen that, check it out. But this one might be giving it a run for its money. So let's take a quick look at what we got going on, and you guys can see, look how big and yummy this box is. This is a huge box, and it is full of stuff. Now, this isn't what your box is going to look like. Obviously, Mo had already unpacked this, so take that for what it is. There's already counter trays and everything already in here, but it makes my job easier, so that's great. There are 4 books that come with this. Let's set this player aid out of the way. And it's some real cool stuff. Now, something neat is this just came in today, and I've already gone over the rules and feel like I've got a decent grasp of them because the rules are only about 30 pages, right? We're not talking about a game that's going to take you weeks to learn and all the other stuff. It really seemed like they're going for a streamlined experience that, yeah, it's going to take you a game or two to get it really figure it out, learn everything, get it committed to memory, but it's not overly complex to the point that you're going to have to be constantly digging into the rules. Now, yes, you lose some elements of gameplay because it's not as deep as ASL, all right? Nothing as deep as ASL. But this, you can get to the game and get to actually playing it in a day and have some real good fun with it, I'll tell you. So, yeah, rulebook, 30 pages, roughly, I think. Yeah, exactly 30 pages. And actually, the rules are less, 29 pages when it comes to the rules. So, shows all the components, all that good stuff. Real good. It's a rulebook. We've seen that before. Scenario booklet. I like how they started this out. They have a couple of training scenarios right here at the beginning. A infantry training scenario that shows you, how to use your infantry. And how kind of formations work. I can't wait to show you guys that because it's so freaking cool. I love this new concept of formations that they got going on this and formation cards. It's a little similar to World at War 85, but you guys will see that here in a sec. Second is vehicle training. That's it. Between A and B here, you're going to have a real good grasp on how to play the game. And then, of course, there's plenty of other scenarios in there. Let's see, y'all. Says 16 other scenarios, or 16 total. Introduction. So yeah, you're looking at like 13, 14 scenarios besides the training one. But that's not all. There is a campaign with this thing, an actual freaking campaign. How cool is that? And that is a hell of a lot deeper. And that gets into Barbarossa, all the cool stuff. And they're saying this is like the first module. They got more coming. So they are definitely catching my attention here. You can see just right there a list of all the different missions here for the campaign. Really cool looking stuff. And we'll just flip through this here real quick, let you guys see some of it. Let me get into the scenarios proper. And what I want you guys to see is, one, the map tiles on this thing are just freaking amazing. I love these map tiles. But the formations, you see how that's listed down there, and it just shows one tank, one infantry, and then one infantry for the red. So we got Germans versus Soviets, obviously. Barbarossa, that's who the good guys, bad guys are in this game. But that doesn't mean you've got one tank and one infantry. That means you've got one card that has the forces listed on it. And it's not necessarily the same forces for each scenario. So like how you've seen scenarios before that'll have your order of battle listed down, and it'll tell you exactly what units are going to be there. There are formation cards with this game that have multiple different armored formations, infantry formations, artillery formations, and you can shuffle those up and randomly draw those, this optional rule for the game, obviously, and use that to determine what units are going to be in it. So even with playing all the different scenarios and campaigns, you can go back, switching the sides to expand the gameplay, and then using different formation cards to change the units, which is going to change the gameplay up. The amount of replayability that is in this box is through the freaking roof. I got to give them props on that. Now, I'm going to go through this quick just to show you guys, because I really want to get this to the table. We're going to play a quick game, not in this video, in the next video. This is just an overview of what's in the box, but do want you guys to be able to see it. And this is something that I had not seen included in too many games, but I do like what they did here. It's just a book that has all the different units and their cards and the historical data there behind them. So these cards are the stats that you're going to see for the units in game. And you can see a lot of it's color coded. I really like that. It reminds me of Core Space and other games that I've played where it's got symbols, but once you learn the symbols, the game just flows smooth because you can glance at the card and you're good to go. You see here, like Panzer IIIH shows you the stats and the history of it, when it was in service, classification, weight, speed, armament, armor, number built, tactical notes. Really cool stuff, and it's like that for all the different units in the game. That's just cool that they included that in there. Now, we do have a couple of player aids. Both of them are the same. You've seen one, you've seen multiple. I mean, really, this is fairly common to what you've seen before if you have played a game of this ilk. Turn sequence, modifiers, terrain chart, the different effects, any bonuses to defense if you're going to get it, how much it costs in movement points to move through certain types of terrain, whether you're infantry or artillery, wheeled, tracked, all that good stuff, whether it's degrading or not degrading, hindered. This game uses the word hindered, or blocking terrain and its height. Basic stuff. Other side is attack and defense dice and ranged fire. It kind of gives you a little blurb of how all that's going to work out. Now, this is something I wish publishers would do. Obviously, Mo did this because he's cool like that, getting his game all set up, and it's not his game. It's Gimpy's game now. I'm picking, buddy. I'm going to send it back to you. I'm going to cry when I do it, but I'm going to send it back to you. Here are our Soviet units and some of them over here. Obviously, there's a lot of Soviet units because, you know, the Soviets were just heavy on manpower. Just to let you guys see some of the counters here. That is a 12.7 millimeter, what is that, machine gun or anti-air gun? Something like that, probably just machine gun. But from the green arrow, you can tell that this is a directional counter, okay? And there is the backside, which shows this is reduced, and that actually has 2 hit points left on it because they are a little bit different. It's not just full side and then reduced side. This actually would have, well, I think this one has, but they're different depending on the different units, essentially 4 hit points. So they can take a single hit point of damage in this game and not be flipped over. And then once you take 2, then you flip it over, and then a couple more kill it. You guys will see that when we get into gameplay, and we'll let you see how thick the counters are. Roughly, they're touch thinner than Lock and Loop Publishing's counters. Touch thinner than Conflict of Heroes. We're about GMT thickness, right? Perfectly thick enough though. Very nice. I'm not sure whether or not they're pre-rounded. I believe they are. I don't think Mo had to clip these, and they don't have any of those jagged edges on them. I don't really think you could clip hex counters anyway, so I'm going to say that these are pre-rounded out of the box, and they've all got very nice clean edges. So just eyeballing it, we've got different types of tanks. We've got a T60. We've got a T35 is in this? Oh, freaking love the T35, man. If you guys don't know, T-35, that's a big Soviet tank. I mean, it wasn't worth shit in combat, but they went go big or go home type gameplay. They had multiple turrets on this thing. Love that thing. Can't believe that's in here. That's really freaking cool. T-34, obviously. What is this? T-26. This looks like a KV. Yeah, KV. Ooh, KV-2. Strong tank. Strong thing made of Stalinium, if you've ever played War Thunder. BT-7, small tank. Let's see what else we got here. We got AT gun, 45 mil. Maybe a bigger one. Yep, 76 mil AT gun. A lot of good stuff here. Do we have more of those? Yep, another 76. And then it looks like a bunch of infantry and machine guns. Yeah, LMG. What does this say? NVD? NKVD-41. So some type of Soviet troop. I'm not exactly sure which one. A bunch of rifles. I mean, a mess load of rifles. Rifles. Heavy rifles. So plenty of those. Ooh, they have cavalry? They've got cavalry. Look at that. So cool, man. Oh, God, I can't wait to get this on the table. And these all do have like point values and stuff like that. You guys will see that. We're going to show you the cards here in just a sec. Let's take a look at our German units, see what we have. For them, we've got half-track, usual transport, machine gun, Panzer IV, a Panzer II. Cool, Panzer II. Rather have the Panzer IIJ, not the F. Panzer IIJ. We've got a Panzer Jaeger. Panzer Jaeger 1B. I'm not as familiar with that one. And here, Stug 3. Love it. Love the Stug. Looks like some anti-tank guns. So yeah, if this was Barbarossa 41, they're not going to have any Tigers or Panthers or anything like that. This is going to be more Panzer 2s, 3s, 4s, Stugs. The smaller end of it. 37 mil anti-tank gun. Definitely probably not going to have any 88s either. Oh no, got an 88. Got an 88. Huh? Guess I was wrong on my dates. Mortars. Awesome. Probably some machine guns here. Yeah. MG34. And what is this? This looks a little different. Mott rifles. Okay. It looks like it's got a truck counter behind it. Motorized rifles, I'm guessing. Yeah, I'm guessing that's motorized rifles. So built-in trucks right there for them. 75 mil. Looks like just kind of like a howitzer. Grenadiers. And what other cool stuff do we have? Tank hunters. So we've got some tank hunters, and then a couple of stacks worth of rifles. They don't have near as many counters of just rifles, but the Soviets were going to have a bunch of them. So let's pull our counters out of the way. Very, very nice counters. I got to say, as far as component quality goes, this game is definitely top notch. Top freaking notch. And you guys can see that, especially now. These are the map pieces. Look at this. Look at this. These are nice and sturdy. Let me pull this out. Look at that. Right? Nice and big. They're labeled. They're numbered, right? And then labeled here across the top and the side so we can know exactly what hex it is. A1, B2, whatever it is. And they're double-sided. Plus, the roads line up so you can make your own if you want to. But you don't see too many doing this. Obviously, these are built to line up. All right, so you see how the map pieces are going to go together like that, or like so. All right, so they line right up, and you guys can see how the roads can line right up on these things. There are some that have buildings. A lot of it's just green, though. There's no winter stuff. We've got some small wooden buildings here. Ooh, nice little village. Cool stuff to fight over. Looks like some heavier buildings there. Ooh, a river running through here. So basic terrain that you're going to anticipate seeing in plenty of war games at a tactical level. Hills, trees, rivers, roads, buildings, all that good stuff. I really like the way these map tiles work, the way they lay out. And I was looking through some of their scenarios, and I believe there's 9 of these total, but they have plenty of scenarios that use all of them. Plenty that use less in case you don't have the room, because all 9 of these would take a fair amount of space. But you even see some scenarios where it's not just the simple square rectangle shape, right? There's some that are like T-shaped. There's some that are almost like a Z shape in the way that it kind of arcs over. I saw a really cool one that had all 9 of these, but they were arched. And the way the Soviets set up, there was like this line going around, and the Germans were coming in from like this way, and the Soviets could set up anywhere within that line, like up to it and behind it. And the Soviets had infantry and artillery, but no tanks. Tanks they got later as reinforcements, and the Germans were starting off with tanks. So obviously with artillery, it's like anti-tank guns as well. So you had to position your troops as the Soviets in a way to hold back that German advance long enough for your reinforcements to come in. Friggin' so cool, man. I can't wait to try this out. And the cards, we're going to wait and touch on those last, because those are the really cool part. These are informational. The red ones are damage counters. White ones are smoke. And they're just nice little wooden pieces to help represent it. That's what I was talking about earlier with the units not needing or not being just flipped over to be reduced. They can have these damage counters placed on them to represent how much damage they've taken. Some more informational counters, and said we will touch on these cards here in a sec, because that's one of the neatest parts of it. Cute little turn record track. And custom dice. I love custom dice. You don't see enough games doing custom dice. It is always D6, 2D6 this, 1D6 that, blah, blah, blah. And it's so burnt out. It's cliched out. Trust me, I get it. D6s are easy. Everyone knows them. But I'd like to see something different. Now, with this, they got the D6 shape. And I think the reason they do that, because I've talked to some publishers before, is the D6 dice are the cheapest to get, especially when you're getting mass production. I can understand that. So they got D6 dice, but they got them individually. So they're specifically made for this game. The round circle represents a hit. The X represents a suppression. And let's see if I can find it. Yep. That skull and crossbones represents a critical hit. So when you're looking at your unit cards that I'm going to show you guys here in just a sec, if it shows attack dice for whatever range, it'll show you the squares. So red is the most powerful, then yellow, then green, then blue being the weakest. It'll show you which ones you're going to roll at what range, at what type of target. So if you're real close in, firing at infantry, you'll roll specific dice. Firing at tanks or vehicles, you'll fire different types of dice. Really cool stuff. Love that. And of course, they've got a couple of generic D6 in there for, just game purposes, like spotting attempts and things like that. And that is not all. He's got a couple of little planos in here just to show you guys. There are some more counters. These have to do with the veterancy of the units, because they can be regular or recruits, elites, veterans, hardened, all that good stuff. And that can affect them in gameplay, give them certain bonuses like extra defense or attack dice. Put that down. And then over here, we've got basically our admin counters. So think lock and load publishing. When you move and fire, just do a regular fire or dig in, which is really cool because you can dig in with your infantry, and the turn that you're digging in, they're weaker. They lose a die, but the turn after that, they are dug in and they actually get a bonus to their defense die. So really cool stuff. Love that. But these are just the generic informational encounters. It keeps track of what units have basically activated up until that point. All right, now there are command cards in the game. We're not going to get too long-winded on these, but understand these are basically your rule breakers. Optional. You don't have to play with these if you don't want to, but you can. And it gives you the ability to just play a card and do whatever's on the card. Like this one, this vehicle unit may remove a damage point, mark it with a fast action status marker. And there's German and Soviet command cards. Real basic. All right, so these couple of stacks of cards work together. We're going to go over this one first, and then we'll touch on these formation cards. These are your unit cards. These tell you what the unit is, what it does, its stats, all the other good stuff, okay? So as you're looking at it, it'll tell you what the unit is, its movement points, its defense value, any special stuff that applies to it, like this is a support. So there's a support phase in the game where it can activate, which is actually kind of interesting. So your onboard artillery, indirect fire type stuff, they activate and fire during a separate phase of the game instead of usually during the action phase like you see in most other games. Cool stuff. Down here, any special stuff that applies. These guys are slow. They have indirect fire. They can fire smoke, to try to obscure things. And then down here's what I was talking about with the two different types of targets, vehicles and infantry and artillery. Some vehicles, though, if they are considered unarmored, will be fired at using this stat line. You can see with these guys, they can't do anything against vehicles unless they're like point blank right there on top of them. That's what the range 0 means for them. But down here, if we look real close, that's your range band. So think of it like up to 3 hexes away, 5 hexes away, 8 hexes away. And then these are the dice that will be rolled against that type of target. This at close range, they'd roll a red die. Range 5, they'd roll a yellow and a blue. Range 8, a green and a blue. Their defense die are here. So when you're firing at a target, they're going to look and use whatever this is. And this is basically what direction they're being fired at. For infantry, the direction's not that big of a deal because they can, fire in any direction. But for vehicles, that does make a much bigger difference because you have front armor, rear armor, all that good stuff. Let's actually find ourselves a vehicle. And we can see what I'm talking about. Ooh, our T-35, just what we need. You see, it's got different stats. Well, it kind of has different stats. The only one that's different is the front one. But think of this as front, top, because top can be fired at in this game, rear, and flank. Okay, so this is for both sides. It's not like one side is different than another. This one up here has to do with firing down on top of it. So cool stuff. And then again, it's different stats depending what type of target it's firing at and again, what range. Now, the firing and defending is really easy to understand in this game. You're just going to add up whatever dice that you're throwing at whatever range. Any modifiers that apply, roll those dice. The defender will add up their defense die, okay? Same dice. So the attack and defense dice, same ones. Any modifiers that they get, they'll roll them and they compare. The defender, any symbols that they match that the attacker has thrown, cancel out. Anything that's left over gets through and damages the opponent. It is really just that simple. Now, there are critical hits that can cause special little bonuses and stuff like that. You guys will see that when we play the game here soon. So you're going to have a card like this for each one of the different types of units, okay? German and Soviet units, all the different ones. If you have multiples of the same type, so you got a bunch of rifles out there, you're only going to set down a single card. Now, that will come into play if you use the optional rules in this game that has to do with the command points. Just to briefly touch on that, and I really like this because it adds that random factor even more into the game, is that you could play it using that optional rule, and you can only have so many command points, actions that you get to spend per turn. Let's say, just as an example, you have 3, but you have 5 units on the board. Well, that means you're only going to be able to activate 3 out of your 5 units, right? Really cool stuff. I love how they got that set up. All right, so these are what I'm talking about when we're getting into the formation. If we're looking at these cards, Soviet formation, you see it's got the little infantry symbol. And let me scroll down here. There's your artillery symbol and vehicle symbol. So let's say we're playing a scenario where you've got one of each. You'll get these, shuffle them up, draw one out, and that's going to be your units. So if we drew this card, we would have the 88th NKVD Border Regiment, a little support platoon, and it tells us we get 2 of these squads, 2 of these, 1 this, 1 this, 1 this, 1 truck, okay? And these are how many command points that we get with that. And just grab a few just so you guys can see some of the differences. Is the infantry? Yep. So these guys have more rifles, but they have some mortars. They have a machine gun. They've got a sniper. These guys have rifles. Looks like an anti-tank gun. Mortars, another machine gun, anti-tank rifle. This has a support gun section. And if I remember right, they kind of base these roughly off of the actual units, like in real life. This is a cavalry unit. So that's what I'm talking about. Now, you don't have to play it this way. You can just pick whatever formations you want to use if you want to do that. But if you and your opponent want it to be random, you can. Okay, so imagine playing your scenarios where you randomly pick one of these formation cards or from a selection of formation cards, with whichever ones are applicable, and you don't know what units you're going to have. But then your opponent doesn't know what units you're going to have. They're going to have random stuff. So even with that, we've got, what, a bunch? I mean, how many of these? A bunch of these different infantry ones, right? So you could play the same scenario and have it play out completely different numerous times in a row, even if you played the same side using just the different formation cards, because you would have different assortment of units each time. This time you might have some cavalry. This time you might have some mortars. This time you might have a tank or an anti-tank gun. Just that ability to have that random factor. I really, really, really love these formation cards. Same thing for the Germans. Bunch of different formation cards, all the different units that can be in the game. And of course, there are more rules to it than I'm saying just yet. Again, we're going over the highlights. You guys are going to see this a little more in depth when I play the game here soon. But this has to be one of my favorite aspects of the game. This and the dice, the custom dice. Love that. Brings something fresh to the game. And the ability to have like just that random factor, especially when you're playing something solo, having the ability to not know what's going to happen or not know what your opponent's going to be, just, you know, shuffle up and you know you're going to have an armored German formation and an infantry formation against you, but you don't know what it's going to be, and you pick out your forces, set them up, and then you flip the card and find out what you're facing. You know, you don't know in real life who the bad guys are going to be. You find out when you get there, and you have to make do with what you have. Love that. Love that. I think this game is going to play really, really well solitaire. And again, that's where these little counters would come into play. You would get so many of these counters that you get to apply to your units during the game. Now, that's optional, right? You don't have to use the command point thing. If you don't use command points, then you obviously activate all your units. The enemy activates all their units till the game, both players pass 3 times in a row, and then the round's over. But I think this adds a depth, a flavor to the game that you would be sorely missing. It'll feel too much like other games to not include this aspect of that. All right, but you guys stay tuned. I'm going to take and look through the scenario book. I'm going to try to find something small enough because, like I said, these maps are fairly large. And let's see. Yeah, a couple of them like that or a couple of them like that. I'm thinking of doing like a 2-map scenario. I'm thinking something about this size maybe would be a good way to do it because this would be a little bit too long. I don't know. I'll come up with something and see if I can find a good 2-map scenario to play out for you guys and let you really see the game in action, because I think that's really where it's going to shine. The new concepts to it, the dice, the cards, the formation, the command points. I really like how all that works together. All right, but you guys stay tuned. I will have that up for you here in a couple of days. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free, like always, to put it down below. Oh, and I don't say this enough. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't. I need that crap. So push the red button. You guys take care. I'll see you in the next one.